Thanks again for joining us. We're listening in a little bit there to Philadelphia District Attorney and others talking about crime-related offenses regarding gun crimes there in Philadelphia. But we are going to change gears right here and bring you one of the top stories that we have been following this morning. It all started with this tweet here from Fox's very own Jennifer Griffin, exclusive here, saying that the Biden administration is weighing sending 1,500 active duty U.S. troops to the southern border ahead of the lifting of Title 42 on May 11th, amidst concerns that the tens of thousands of migrants on the other side of the border in Mexico may try to cross here. And this has been a story that we have been following closely, of the border crisis that has been continuing really since the Biden administration. And right now we want to go right here to Fox News' Jennifer Griffin joining us here with the very latest on Live Now from Fox. We appreciate you joining us here and giving us the latest details on this big news story today.
Well, thanks, Mike. When we broke the news this morning, it sent the various agencies in the government scrambling, and we understand that the Pentagon will be talking about this deployment at the top of their 2 p.m. press conference coming up. We also understand that the Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin, is expected to sign off on these orders for the 1,500 active duty U.S. soldiers from Army units across the country who will go down to the border for about 90 days. The request originally came from DHS, from the Department of Homeland Security. The Secretary of Homeland Security, Ali Mayorkas, has been warning since last week that the thousands of migrants on the other side of the border in Mexico could be viewing, and as a result of a lot of disinformation that's being spread to them, that the border is open after May 11th and may try to come across. So these troops, these U.S. Army troops, will be not in a law enforcement capacity. They will be armed only for self-defense, and they will be used, I'm told, mostly for administrative purposes to free up Border Patrol so they can be down on the border. The Pentagon is very cognizant of not wanting U.S. active duty troops to be sort of guarding the border. That is for the Border Patrol to do. But these troops, these U.S. troops who will be there for the next 90 days, they could be providing transport and, again, freeing up those Border Patrol that are already extremely stressed and stretched, as we've been reporting in recent weeks and months, so that they can make sure that the border remains secure after May 11th. I'll also point out that last week, President Biden signed an executive order in which it was a little noticed executive order at the time last week, in which he said that the active duty troops could be called up to help with drug enforcement efforts. That then paved the way for these 1,500 troops to be called up quickly. Again, that was not noticed as much last week, and now we have a little more understanding of what's happening. And this is not the first president, of course, to deploy troops to the border, but it has been politically sensitive in the past. Mike?
Yeah, it really has, Jennifer, and some would say, with these added troops going to the border, some would say, okay, where was this months or even a couple of years ago as well? When we're talking about a political landscape right now, that even just sending just some troops there to the border can be really damaging politically. Can we talk a little bit about that, as we all know that Biden is running again for president in 2024?
Well, I think some historic perspective here, and I want to get the numbers right, but if you go back to the George W. Bush administration, when he was president in 2006, he sent 6,000 troops to the border, to California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. It was called Operation Jumpstart. And over the course of the period of time, over 2 years, while they were there and deployed, they actually apprehended 185,000 undocumented immigrants trying to come across the border. So that goes back to the Bush administration. Then if you look at President Obama and Vice President Biden, there was Operation Phalanx, and that was 1,200 U.S. troops to the border. It stretched out for about a year, and at that point, they also sent a striker unit, that's an armed unit, down to Fort Bliss because of the immigration situation and the insecure border. So this was happening before the Trump administration. Then in 2018, President Trump sent 2,100 National Guardsmen to the border, and then just days, before the midterm elections, he deployed another 5,200 troops to the border, and there was a lot of pushback at the time from both Democrats as well as those in the military who felt the military were being used at that time for political purposes. So this is going to be heavily debated. The question is whether 1,500 troops are really going to make any difference down there. Is it for symbolic reasons? It's very sensitive in terms of having armed troops down there. Troops are not allowed to really be in a policing role here on the continental United States. So this is a delicate political issue, and it is bound to get debated. But what's really in focus is what a serious situation there is at the border, with May 11th coming up, with up to 40,000 migrants waiting on the other side of the border, who, if they all decide to storm those border crossings, it could be a very serious situation, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there thinking that by putting this out there now that 40,000 could maybe be diminished as far as a number, maybe to try to dissuade some, or is it already too late as far as the thinking as trying to dissuade some of the immigrants from coming and trying to rush the border?
I think there is a degree of messaging involved here to say, don't come across the border after May 11th. Don't come across the border now unless you have gone through legal processes. But again, this may be a bit late. We're talking about just a little over a week away. And as we mentioned, there are 40,000 migrants waiting on the other side of the border inside Mexico. And it could be a very, very chaotic situation. It could be a situation that could get out of control. So 1,500 U.S. troops are not going to be there as, again, crowd control or law enforcement. They're there as backup, but it does show how seriously the administration is taking the situation at the border, as well as past administrations, and also how without a change in the laws, this is not going to get resolved with 1,500 U.S. troops.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not going to change overnight as well. Fox's Jennifer Griffin, we appreciate you coming on and talking about your exclusive that you were able to break, and we will definitely be watching the Pentagon briefing at the top there to be really watching what they all say there. And we appreciate your reporting and your updates right here on Live Now from Fox, as always.
Thanks, Mike.
Have a great one. All right, we will take our final break here of this hour. Everyone, stay right here with us. More to come on Live Now from Fox. And, of course, we will have for you in full the